TikTok, what we've seen so far is that it does have a really strong ability to drive off-platform sales via things like TikTok made me buy it, the hashtag, which has had billions of views and has driven sales of all manner of weird and unusual products.
Hey gang, it's Monday, August 30th. Debbie and listeners, welcome to the Behind the Numbers Daily, an eMarketer podcast made possible by VTEX. I'm Marcus, and today I'm joined by our principal analyst who covers everything social media. It's Deborah Aho Williamson.
Hey Marcus, nice to be back.
Hello there, Debbie. Thanks so much for hanging out with me and the listeners today. Today's fact, 1 gigabyte of data would let you watch about an hour and 20 minutes of video. But to store an hour and 20 minutes of video, or 1 gigabyte, you'd need how many floppy disks, Debbie? How many disks do you think you'd need to store an hour and 20 minutes worth of video?
Floppy disks. Wow.
Old school.
Old school. I would say like 1,000 of them.
It's close to it. Yeah, 700. You need 700 floppy disks. So, yeah, it's people that want to watch the new Bond film we downloaded from the internet. Yeah, sure thing. I'll just downloading it from 700 floppy disks. Give me a few days. It's insane.
Oh, those days! Oh my goodness. Yeah, I remember having to carry around a case of floppy disks. I just dated myself here, but yeah.
Same. I'm right there with you. The floppy disk drive was invented at IBM by Alan Shugart. This was in 1967, and it was a 5-inch disc. It was dubbed floppy because the diskette packaging was a very flexible plastic envelope, unlike the rigid case used to hold the next iteration of the 3.5-inch diskettes, which people may be more familiar with. I always remember them being, you could use them once, and then they'd be corrupt and wouldn't work ever again.
I don't want to go back. Let's look forward. It's much easier to talk about downloading a video in like 5 minutes right now, which is I think what you can do if you have good internet connection.
Yes, please. Today's real topic, TikTok ads and shopping. Right, so Debbie, short video platform TikTok was the world's most downloaded app in 2020, taking the top spot from Facebook Messenger, according to analytics company App Annie. TikTok was the only app not owned by Facebook to make the global top 5 downloads at Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, and TikTok, which topped the list. The Olympics likely helped TikTok's continued ascendance. This year, athlete videos racked up millions of views, offering a behind-the-scenes peek at what was happening in Tokyo. Today, close to 80 million, 79 million Americans, or a quarter of the country, use TikTok. But where do advertisers stand on the platform? Well, in July, TikTok introduced Spark Ads, a native ad form which lets advertisers sponsor already published organic user posts per ad age, notes former Insider Intelligence analyst Marielle Soto-Reyes. Advertisers can see already published content and choose to sponsor what's popular. As Marielle writes, TikTok has been ramping up its ad offerings for over a year, hoping to make itself a top choice for social advertisers. So Debbie, first question, is it a top choice for social advertisers?
I think it depends on who the advertiser is and who they're trying to target. So, if you're trying to target young people and you have a product aimed at those people, you're probably going to be, very heavy into TikTok. Is it a top choice overall? No, it's definitely growing. We don't yet forecast ad revenues for TikTok. I'm hoping our forecasting team will take that on sometime soon, but not yet. Mm-hmm. But it's definitely growing. I mean, some data points that kind of crossed my attention over the past several months. One was from Reuters back in February. It said that TikTok has tracked a 500% increase in advertisers running campaigns in the United States over the course of 2020. That's according to Reuters. So that's not a 500% increase in spending, just to be clear. It's a 500% increase in the number of advertisers. Still, growth answers part of your question, Marcus, but doesn't answer the whole question. Another data point comes from The Information, and this is actually over a year old at this point, but the figure that they have cited says that TikTok brought in about 200 million to 300 million in revenue worldwide in 2019. but that it aimed to generate $500 million in revenue in the US in 2020. So sounds big, sounds like it's growing. But if you were to compare that against some platforms that we do have a forecast for, that might be in, say, the competitive set for TikTok, you have a Snapchat with our estimate of $1.8 billion in US ad revenue this year, or Instagram with an estimate of $25 billion in US ad revenue this year. So is it a top choice for social advertisers? Not in total dollars. I don't think we're anywhere near Instagram for sure, and probably not. If I were to, put on my forecasting hat, which I don't really have, but I'll pretend I have one. If I were to put on a forecasting hat, I would not expect that TikTok in the US has passed Snapchat or will pass Snapchat this year.
Yeah, hopefully we can get those forecasts. I'll speak to Monica. She heads our forecasting team. Monica,
yeah, put in a good word.
Get on it. Yeah, get to it, please. They do so much. I don't know how they do it. But yeah, another data point, which I think kind of shows the direction that TikTok's heading in, even if it hasn't nearly caught up with some of those other social media giants that you mentioned. Our colleague Jasmine Emberg noting in a piece that TikTok's ad prices were soaring, writing a June report from Bloomberg News showed that TikTok will charge $1.4 million for a homepage takeover in the US during Q3. That figure will rise during Q4, especially during the holiday period. The increase reflects growing demand as TikTok has been ramping up its advertising portfolio. Debbie, you mentioned the younger people and that TikTok, at the minute at least, is overwhelmingly for younger people. At least that's what's going on at the moment. 2/3 of 12 to 24-year-olds in America use TikTok. However, less than 1/3 of the 35 to 44-year-olds. And when you get to the 45 plus, less than 8% of that group. I was looking at how that stacks up against Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram. And that's very similar penetration numbers to Snapchat, actually. Lots and lots and lots of young people, way less older folks. Instagram has many more older users. Facebook, close to half of Americans over 55 use Facebook. Which social platform do you think TikTok will resemble in, say, a year's time? Do you think it's still going to be more like a Snapchat, mainly for young people? Or do you think it can get closer to the Instagram, where it's got broader appeal across the age groups?
Demographically speaking, yeah. I mean, I do see it becoming more like an Instagram. I think that the appeal of videos on TikTok is pretty broad. And I think that as TikTok grows up and the type of content expands, it's the type of place where I think you're going to find something interesting for just about everybody. And the other factor to consider, too, is that, young people grow up. And that's kind of what happened to Instagram. Instagram was a younger platform 5-10 years ago, but those users have grown up and matured into millennials or even older millennials, and they're still using Instagram. So I kind of think the same thing's going to happen with TikTok.
Mm-hmm. So there was a study of those young folks, those 18 to 35-year-old folks. There's a recent Advertising Advanced TV article that says brands on TikTok's For You page see higher levels of receptiveness to brand messaging, calls to action, and ad breakthrough. This is according to what was called an independent study by neuroanalytics and neuromarketing firm Neuro Insight of 57 in-lab 18 to 35-year-olds. But Debbie, you quite quickly noted that we can't work out if it was exactly commissioned by TikTok, but there was a link to TikTok's site which had this very article.
Essentially, yes. The details of this study were printed on TikTok's news website, basically. So we can at least assume that the results of this study were blessed by TikTok, if not actually sponsored.
Right. And some of the findings there, just to talk through them anyway, and just get a kind of general take on those. So 2 things jumped out to me. One, compared to other video-based media, think TV, digital video, they said TikTok's in-feed ads achieved 23% higher detail memory than TV ads, while TikTok top view ads outperformed TV by 40%. And the second finding, TikTok's algorithm and shorter video formats created continuous cycles of engagement, making TikTok the leading platform for what they call information density. TikTok users experience consistently more peaks of engagement during their time with the platform, suggesting users are fully leaned in and immersed on TikTok compared to other platforms. So taking these results with a grain of salt, as you'd mentioned to me, what do you make of them?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I mean, yes, you want to take them with a grain of salt because anytime a study's sponsored or even blessed by a platform, you know that the results are going to be, favorable towards that platform. So you just have to take that into account. However, I mean, I think, based on, personal usage as well as just what I've seen of people, young people and not so young people, i.e. my husband, and how they use, TikTok. It's true. I mean, one of the statements that the study made was that TikTok ads break through more than TV and digital video, like you said. And, that sounds like a bold statement. And I feel like people in the TV industry would be like, whoa, 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 whoa. But I think generally that statement is probably correct. Maybe the difference between TV and video and TikTok may not be as large as this small study found. But, TikTok is very immersive and you do tend to focus on what's on the screen. TikTok has very clever usage of stickers and effects that you can capture your eye and create more attention to what's on the screen. And of course, the ads, like in most other social platforms, are very native looking ads. They look like the videos you're watching. So it's possible that sometimes you end up watching an ad and it's sponsored and you might miss that little sponsored tag. And, you end up watching it because it's just as engaging and fun as the rest of the content on TikTok. So I tend to believe that that's probably true overall, that statement.
Let's talk about shopping for a second on TikTok. So according to a recent survey of members of Bizarre Voices Influencer online product review community, shopping via TikTok was up over 500%, Twitter over 300%, Pinterest 250%. Social platforms had increased dramatically in the last 12 months, writes senior tech editor for Chain Store Age Dan Batum. In recent months, TikTok has also inked a few high-profile commerce deals. The first one, on August 24th, Erin Wu of the New York Times reported that TikTok and e-commerce platform Shopify said they'd be working together to add the ability for consumers to shop directly in the TikTok app for the first time, instead of just buying things through ads. So Shopify merchants in the pilot program can add a shopping tab to their profiles and link to products within TikTok posts. Shopify expects to roll the feature out to all merchants this fall. And the second high-profile deal, Publicis Group announced a partnership with TikTok, becoming the growing social platform's first agency partner for commerce, writes Insider Intelligence principal analyst Jeremy Goldman. The deal gives Publicis clients exclusive access to shopping features before other brands. So, Debbie, what do you make of these deals and TikTok's current shopping efforts at large?
Well, I mean, just to level set, commerce in general is a huge focus for all of the social platforms, for Instagram, for Facebook, for, Snapchat, Twitter, even LinkedIn, most likely has social commerce on its radar. It's become a huge, huge buzzword across, the industry this year. So all of these social platforms are really at this point trying to build out their commerce capabilities as quickly as possible. And it's a complicated ecosystem. It includes creators, and includes merchants, and includes payment systems, and e-commerce platforms like a Shopify, plus the social platforms themselves. So there's a lot going on here. All that's preamble to say that TikTok, what we've seen so far is that it does have a really strong ability to drive off-platform sales via things like TikTok made me buy it, the hashtag, which has had billions of views and has driven sales of all manner of weird and unusual products that seem to go popular and viral on TikTok. So what's happening now with Shopify is going to be a test of whether users really want to embed their shopping more specifically and more deeply into TikTok. And the other thing that I think about, in addition to, whether people want to shop directly within TikTok, is, right now, what TikTok is doing is basically limited to this partnership with Shopify. So if you're not a Shopify merchant, my understanding is you're not part of this program. So you have to have some sort of back-end capability through Shopify. And according to our forecast, only about 9% of the US retail GMV is expected to go through Shopify this year. So that means that there's, 91% of retail e-commerce happening that is not on Shopify that is currently not, able to go through TikTok. I'm imagining at some point they'll be adding this. But at this point, it's not as if the whole industry could use TikTok for social shopping.
It's a great point. And then within that 9%, it's a pilot program, so even fewer, at least for now. They say they're going to expand it in the fall. It's an excellent point there. So, Debbie, you mentioned at the beginning, social commerce has become a huge focus for the social players, and quite rightly so. Our estimates have US social commerce sales doubling between today and 2025, going from $37 billion to $80 billion.
Yeah. And so, on the side of the Publicis deal with TikTok, I mean, it's along the line of, what other agency partnerships TikTok has struck. I mean, they did a deal with WPP earlier this year. Essentially, I think what's happening is that Publicis is getting preferential pricing, maybe first dibs on access to new ad products and features for its clients. It just makes the pipeline, back and forth of advertising and maybe commerce easier. That's how I would describe that deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Debbie, that's all we've got time for the first half. Time now for the halftime report, where we summarize the key takeaways from the lead story in about 20 seconds or less. So, Debbie, a couple of the takeaways from the first half for the listeners?
TikTok has really, working backwards, the shopping part is very interesting. I'm going to be very, very curious to see if people who watch lots of videos on TikTok also want to do lots of shopping there. As far as the ads being engaging and, people being very focused on ads within TikTok, I do think that's generally accurate, although since the study is at least blessed by TikTok, how much of a difference there is between other types of advertising may be overstated. And then, finally, looking back at is TikTok a top choice for social advertisers? It's definitely growing, but nowhere near as large as a competitor called Instagram, and probably also not as big as Snapchat.
That's what we've got time for the lead story. Time now for In Other News. First, a quick word from our sponsor, VTEX. Everyone is talking about digital transformation, but what does it mean in real life? Digital Insider is a new podcast series about the digitization of retail, where business leaders, academics, and thinkers discuss how businesses are transforming and give their perspectives, practical advice, thought process, and lessons learned. Go to digitalinsider.com to learn more or listen to it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Right, folks, we are back today in other news. Facebook attempts to make a meaningful pivot, they're hit with another antitrust suit, and they're now testing Reels on the Blue app. Story 1. In an exclusive interview with The Verge, Facebook's VP of Ads and Business Product Marketing, Graham Mudd, said a quote-unquote meaningful pivot was happening around its ads business, particularly in how the ads are targeted to users, notes our Insider Intelligence Principal Analyst Jeremy Goldman. Facebook are concerned that access to targeting data will become more limited in the coming years. So the question Facebook and others are asking themselves is, how do I deliver highly relevant ads to users without knowing anything specific about them? Debbie, what do you make of this statement or pivot from Facebook?
I would call it a monumental task. It's a meaningful pivot, but it's huge. And I think it's a more monumental task for Facebook than maybe some outside observers might have initially thought. Facebook is really trying to completely overhaul a lot of their ad measurement and attribution products that they relied on before Apple rolled out its changes to iOS that ask users to opt into tracking and really reduce the amount of information that Facebook has access to. And so it's true that all digital publishers are affected by this. And so, many of them are scrambling to rethink their targeting offering. But I feel like Facebook's a commitment and its long-standing efforts to provide deep targeting and data collection also ends up meaning it stands to lose a lot of ground, I think, relative to competitors if it doesn't get this meaningful pivot or monumental task of redoing its ad products right.
Alex Heath of The Verge explains that the walls are starting to close in a little on Facebook, writing that, quote, the stakes are high for Facebook. Apple now makes developers ask for permission to track iPhone people across other apps for targeting ads. Google has planned something similar for Android phones. The EU is considering a ban on micro-targeted ads as part of the Digital Services Act, and the US government has signaled interest in policing the surveillance of users by dominant internet platforms, as they call them. Story 2. Facebook have been hit with another antitrust suit by the FTC after the last one was thrown out due to insufficient allegations to support its claims. The allegations are that the company is abusing a monopoly position in social media, writes Brent Kendall of the Wall Street Journal. This new suit supposedly goes into more detail than the first, claiming Facebook tried to suppress competition by buying up potential rivals like WhatsApp and Instagram. Facebook fired back, accusing the FTC of seeking to, quote, rewrite antitrust laws and upend settled expectations of merger review, close quote. Debbie, your thoughts on this suit?
Yeah, this one's an interesting one. I mean, the new, the FTC commissioner, Lena Khan, she is not someone to take lightly. And I know that the social platforms or, any of the platforms that are, in her target list, they know that. And so I'm sure Facebook is planning a very, robust response. And it can still potentially get the case dismissed, based on the reading that I've done, by making arguments, legal arguments. So there is that possibility, but it's going to take a lot. I mean, I read through some of the complaint, and there's a significant focus on time spent, MAUs and DAUs, and just how much emphasis that Facebook places on those metrics. And that's really interesting evidence. This is going to be a tough one for Facebook. I'm very, very intrigued to see what happens.
Mm-hmm, indeed. Story 3. Facebook is now testing the TikTok-esque feature you see on Instagram called Reels on the Blue app. For some Facebook users, these videos will now show up in the news feed and within groups. Facebook was already testing Reels in India, Mexico, and Canada. Instagram users can also cross-post their Reels to Facebook. Ashley Carman of The Verge notes that as justification for the test, Facebook says nearly half of time spent on the app is dedicated to watching videos. Debbie, does Reels on Facebook have potential?
It does. And interesting that we're talking about time spent again. We literally just mentioned it in the FTC item. Facebook's trying to increase people's time spent. So therefore, let's pile more videos into Facebook and make it easy for Instagram users to copy their Reels over to Facebook. Is it going to be a success? I'm not sure. It's kind of like stories. Stories have been a huge success on Instagram, not so much on Facebook.
Yep. Ms. Carman of The Verge notes that companies are shelling out cash to attract creators. At one point, Snapchat was spending $1 million a day to incentivize creation for its Spotlight. YouTube's Shorts Fund will pay $100 million throughout the next year to its creators. Facebook said it will spend $1 billion on Facebook and Instagram creators through 2022. It will also, quote, roll out additional bonus programs and seed funding, close quote, in the coming months, particularly aimed at Facebook Reels. That's all we've got time for. Thank you so much to Debbie for hanging out with us today.
Thank you, Marcus.
Of course, and thank you so much to Victoria, who edits the show. Thanks to everyone listening. Tomorrow on Tuesday, August 31st, you can check out our Tech Talk webinar with Terminus about multi-channel engagement for modern B2B marketers. A link is below. We'll see you guys tomorrow, hopefully, for the Behind the Numbers Daily, an e-marketer podcast made possible by VTEX.